Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm going to make a reverse dyed hoodie. I'm using a women's Buffalo brand hoodie which I purchased from Costco. It is 70% viscose, 16% cotton, 11% polyester, and 3% elastane. By the way, I also have the hoodie turned inside out, and it's kind of a taupey type color. I'm going to tie some diagonal stripes on the hoodie. Not really like a single geode, but kind of. That same feel, except it's not going to have a center like a geode does. So I'm going to grab one corner of the hem and lift the hoodie up off the table and give it a little shake. I want it to kind of fall naturally, and then from the corner is where I'm going to start tying the lines. I am going to do kind of like a geode where I'm going to vary the distance between the lines. I think it looks a little bit more interesting for there to be a varying distance between all the lines instead of all the lines being exactly the same distance apart. That's just a personal preference thing. I'm also one who doesn't particularly like symmetry everywhere. I kind of am an asymmetrical type girl. I think symmetry kind of gets a little bit boring sometimes. The asymmetry gives your eye a little bit something different to look at. Like I said, that's just a personal preference. If you want to make all the lines the same distance apart, feel free to do so. By the way, I'm not sure I mentioned, but I'm using Sinew to tie the different lines in the hoodie. The Sinew is artificial sinew, which is wax coated. And because of the wax coating, it's not going to allow the color remover that I'm going to use or the dye underneath those lines. So wherever I put one of these Sinew lines and I tighten it down until it locks in place, that area underneath that line is going to remain the taupey type color. I have links down below in the description for this video for where I purchased my Sinew and a lot of the other items that I use when I tie-dye. I'll also list the different colors that I'm going to use on this hoodie down below as well. For the color removal process, I'm going to use a product called OWB Brite Laundry Whitener, and I purchased mine from Walmart. It's usually on the laundry aisle next to the bleach. It's not a bleach product though, so it doesn't have to be neutralized, and it's not going to damage the fabric. If for some reason you can't find any in your local store, I have a link down below in the description for this video for where you can purchase some from Amazon. I'm going to remove the color from quite a few hoodies all at the same time, so I've placed them all down inside of a plastic tub or tote, and I'm going to sprinkle the OWB Brite over the top. And I tend to use quite a bit of OWB Brite. I mean, the folds that I'm doing are pretty thick, and they are hoodies. And my philosophy is it's a lot cheaper to buy a bottle of OWB Brite than it is to have to replace a hoodie that I didn't get enough of the color out of. So I'm going to liberally sprinkle the OWB Brite over the top. And by the way, I'm also wearing my respirator for this whole entire process. The OWB Brite powder is kind of fine, and I don't want to inhale that. And I also don't want to inhale any of the fumes from the OWB Brite. So I'm going to do the process outside and wear my respirator. Now I'm going to pour boiling hot water over the top of the OWB Brite. I'm going to pour it slowly so that it doesn't splash back up on me. And if you'll notice too, the minute I start to pour the boiling hot water over the OWB Brite, it starts to foam and bubble, and it actually starts to immediately remove the color. So I ended up going ahead and pouring this pan of hot water over the top, and I had another pan of boiling water on my stove at the same time. I ended up pouring it over the top too because I want the items to sit down in the OWB Brite solution. They may not be totally submerged, but I want them to be close. I also ended up adding some more OWB Brite. So that was my bad. I probably really didn't need to, but the items are turned inside out. So the polyester is what is on the outside that you can see. I kept looking at them and thinking that they weren't getting enough color removed. Well, that's because I was seeing the polyester part, which doesn't really have the color removed without OWB Brite. If you'll notice, there is one garment where you can kind of see some of that orangey color. That's the inside of that one. So I finally ended up looking inside that item and seeing, oh, well, the color really is getting removed. But before I did that, I went ahead and added a little bit more OWB Brite, thinking I needed to add some more to get it to work. This is the first time I've used the Buffalo hoodies for a color removal process, so I wasn't entirely sure what to expect. I'd heard that other tie-dyers have used them and used OWB Brite and it worked great. But every now and then you do hit items that don't work with OWB Brite. So initially I was a little bit concerned that that's what I had ended up with. Thankfully it's not. The OWB Brite works great with these items. I'm going to go ahead and speed the video up, but after I allowed the items to sit in the OWB Brite for probably about 20 to 30 minutes, I took them to my utility sink and I rinsed them in cold water, and then I put them into my washing machine and I washed them using a little bit of Dharma's Professional Textile Detergent in either a hot or warm cycle. It doesn't really matter. By the way, I left them tied the whole entire time. I'm not going to untie them until at the very end during rinse out. After they came out of the washing machine, I put them into my soda ash solution and I allowed them to soak for 20 to 30 minutes. Then I wrung them out of my Panda spin dryer and put the items aside to allow them to dry out. I like to tie-dye thicker folds like this when they're totally dry. And if you want some more information about that, I have a tie-dye blog out on my website. There's a link to my website down below. I cover this topic as well as several other topics on my tie-dye blog. By the way, if there's any topic that you'd like for me to cover on the blog, just either drop me a comment or shoot me an email or something and let me know. I'm going to rack dye this hoodie. So I've placed a rack inside of a plastic container. Then I'm going to actually kind of twist the hoodie in on itself so that it makes it a little bit easier to dye. It's going to fit on this rack better. Since the fold is kind of tall, I'm not going to be able to use the silicone cake molds which I normally use as an ice barrier. So instead, I'm going to use some plastic cutting boards from the Dollar Tree dollar store. I've cut them into strips, and I'm going to hold them together with binder clips and clothespins. I'm going to add the different colors of dye to the different sections on the hoodie. And as you can tell by my little container over there, I'm using quite a few different colors. So like I said, I have them listed below, but let me go ahead and give them to you. I'm using Flintstone, Aged Wine, and Nightfall, which are all dye spin colors. Gunmetal Gray, Black Cherry, Wedgwood, Deep Space, Mom Jeans, and I think that one was like a special color that was a seasonal color. You can still get them from some people who resell the Dharma dyes like out on tie-dye marketplace and stuff. Anyway, Brushed Steel, Charcoal Gray, and Better Black, which are all Dharma Trading Company colors. Then I'm also using Spicy Plum and Bordeaux from Pro Chemical and Dye. So I have all my colors in one of the plastic wash bins that I get from the Dollar Tree dollar store. And those things are so useful for tie-dyeing. If you have a Dollar Tree close to you, they're not really $1 anymore. They're like $1.25 now, but I have quite a few of those and I use them for everything. I actually do dyeing down in them. I do rinse outs in them. I use them when I gravity dye. And recently I've started doing this. As I pull the colors for shirts and different items, I will put them in one of these plastic dish pans, and then I can pull the colors for multiple shirts all at the same time, and I don't get them mixed up. I started doing this when I was doing a whole lot of gravity dyes outside, and I needed to transport my dyes from in my tie-dye space outside underneath the trees, and it was just a convenient way to do that. And it was so convenient that I've actually kept it up even when I'm dyeing inside. Now I'm going to add an additional sprinkle of soda ash over the top of the dye and add on the ice. After the first layer of ice melted, I went ahead and added a second layer of ice and allowed it to melt as well. I checked the back of the hoodie because I could kind of lift up my shelving unit and look underneath, and it looked like the dye had gone through really well to the back side, so I just left the hoodie alone and allowed it to process for at least 24 hours after the second layer of ice melted. To rinse the hoodie, I took it to my utility sink and I started rinsing it in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. Then I untied the hoodie and warmed the water up to hot and continued rinsing in hot water to rinse out any of the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. Instead of rinsing for a long time, I went ahead and ran some really hot water, either in my utility sink or in one of the plastic containers I was talking about, and added a little bit of Blue Dawn dish detergent to the water and just allowed the hoodie to soak. I changed out the water when it cooled off and I continued that soaking process until the water was almost clear. Then I put the hoodie along with some Dharma's Professional Textile Detergent into my washing machine and washed it using a hot water cycle. So now that it's been washed and dried, this is what it looks like. Well, I think it turned out looking really pretty. What do you guys think? I chose the darker colors because I thought it would look really pretty up next to those more taupey lines. And I think it does. I like the richness of the colors. I like, the darker reds and blues. And the grays and blacks that I added in are always great to add some kind of unexpected color splits. I got pretty good color saturation. I did have just a couple little areas where you see kind of the taupey color from the original sweatshirt peeking through, but I don't mind that. I think it breaks up the design a little bit. I like that color too, so it doesn't bother me to have some of that left showing. The color remover worked really well as well. It removed the color pretty evenly throughout the shirt or hoodie, and I'm pretty pleased with it. But what about you guys? What do you think about it? Please drop me some comments down below and let me know. And I sure would appreciate it if you would like the video and share it if you have friends that you know who would like it as well. Also, if you're enjoying the content of this YouTube channel, I sure would appreciate it if you would subscribe. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.